Welcome to Monk's Temple. Let us begin by doing something very simple. Something you do roughly 20,000 times every single day without ever really noticing it. Let us take a breath together. Notice the air as it enters your body. Perhaps you feel it at the tip of your nose, a slight coolness. Perhaps you feel your chest or your abdomen expand gently. Just notice whatever sensation is there for you. And then notice the release, the exhale. The body letting go. There is no need to control it, no need to deepen it or change it in any way. Just let the breath breathe itself. In this moment, right here, nothing is wrong. There may be 1,000 problems waiting for you outside this room, outside this moment. But right here, with this breath, nothing is wrong. You are simply present, aware, alive. This simple act of being present is the foundation of everything we will explore together. It is the beginning of a journey that does not require you to go anywhere, to believe anything, or to become someone different. It is a journey of coming home to what you already are, but have perhaps overlooked. My name is not important. The voice you hear is simply a guide, a fellow traveler on this path. What matters is the teaching, the Dharma, that has been passed down for over 2,500 years. Not as a set of doctrines to be believed, but as a map to be explored, a path to be walked with your own 2 feet. We live in a world that constantly tells us that happiness is somewhere else. It is in the next promotion, the next relationship, the next purchase, the next achievement. The world tells us that if we can just arrange the external conditions of our lives correctly, we will finally feel satisfied, complete, at peace. This is the promise of advertising, of social media, of the entire modern consumer culture. It is also, unfortunately, a lie. Not a deliberate lie, perhaps, but a fundamental misunderstanding of where suffering comes from and where it ends. The Buddha discovered this over 2 millennia ago, not by studying the stars or the atoms or the external world, but by studying his own mind. He discovered that the root of suffering is not in the world outside. It is in the mind that perceives the world. And because the root is in the mind, the cure is also in the mind. This is the most hopeful message ever spoken. It means that your peace does not depend on the stock market, on the weather, on what other people say or do, on whether you get what you want or lose what you have. Your peace depends on one thing only, the relationship you have with your own mind. We will spend our time together exploring this relationship. We will look at why we suffer, what keeps us trapped in cycles of dissatisfaction, and most importantly, how we can begin to untangle ourselves, gently, patiently, with great kindness toward ourselves. Before we go further, I want to invite you to settle in. If you are sitting, feel the support of the chair or cushion beneath you. If you are lying down, feel the surface holding you. Allow your body to feel heavy, to surrender its weight. There is nothing you need to do right now, nowhere you need to go. This is your time. There is a story about a woman who spent her entire life searching for something she could not name. As a child, she felt it. A vague sense that something was missing, that there was a hole inside her that needed to be filled. She tried everything. She pursued education, earning degrees and accolades. She built a successful career and climbed the corporate ladder. She found love, married, had children, created what looked from the outside like a perfect life. And yet, the hole remained. She traveled to exotic countries, seeking wisdom from gurus and teachers. She read hundreds of books on spirituality and self-help. She attended workshops and retreats. Still, the hole persisted, a quiet ache beneath the surface of her daily life. One day, exhausted from her searching, she sat down under a tree near her home and did something she had never done before. She stopped searching. She stopped trying to figure it out. She just sat there, feeling the breeze on her skin, hearing the birds in the branches, noticing the play of light and shadow on the ground. And in that moment of stopping, she realized something astonishing. The hole she had been trying to fill her entire life was not a hole at all. It was a doorway. She had been trying to fill it with things, with experiences, with knowledge, with relationships. But a doorway is not meant to be filled. A doorway is meant to be walked through. She had been approaching her dissatisfaction as a problem to be solved, a deficiency to be corrected. But what if her dissatisfaction was not a sign that something was wrong with her? What if it was a sign that she was looking in the wrong direction? What if the emptiness she felt was not an absence of something, but the presence of something she had not yet learned to recognize? This woman's story is our story. Every one of us knows something of this seeking, this striving, this sense that there must be more to life than this. We chase one thing after another, hoping that the next achievement, the next possession, the next relationship will finally satisfy us. And when it doesn't, we look for the next thing, convinced that we simply haven't found the right one yet. The Buddha's teaching begins with a radical proposition: what if the problem is not that we haven't found the right thing to fill the hole? What if the problem is the very act of trying to fill it? What if our striving for happiness is precisely what keeps happiness out of reach? If this exploration of the mind and the end of suffering speaks to you, if you recognize something of yourself in this woman's story, please consider subscribing to Monk's Temple. By subscribing, you join a community of people who are choosing to look inward, to question their assumptions, to walk the path of awakening together. Simply click the subscribe button below. It is a small act that says, yes, I am ready to stop running and start being present. Thank you. Let us now turn to the nature of this search itself. Why do we seek so desperately? What drives this endless pursuit of something better, something more, something different? Psychologists speak of a phenomenon called the hedonic treadmill. It is the tendency of humans to return to a relatively stable level of happiness despite major positive or negative events in their lives. Win the lottery, and within a year, your happiness level will likely be back where it started. Suffer a terrible accident, and within a similar period, your happiness level will also likely return to its baseline. We adapt. The new car becomes just the car. The new house becomes just the house. The new relationship becomes just the relationship. The treadmill keeps moving, and we keep walking, but we never actually get anywhere. We run endlessly, expending enormous energy, and remain perfectly in place. The Buddha observed this same phenomenon 25 centuries ago, though he described it differently. He spoke of thirst, tanha in the ancient language. It is a thirst that can never be quenched because the very nature of thirst is to want more. You quench one thirst, and soon enough, another arises. You satisfy one desire, and three more take its place. The mind is like an ocean with waves constantly arising, each wave a new wanting, a new dissatisfaction. But here is the crucial insight the Buddha offered. The problem is not the waves. The ocean cannot stop having waves. The problem is that we have forgotten we are the ocean. We think we are the waves. Each wave rises up and believes itself to be separate, alone. It fears its own crashing. It struggles against other waves. It wants to become bigger, last longer. When you know yourself as the ocean, the waves can come and go without disturbing your fundamental peace. You do not need to stop the waves. You simply need to stop mistaking yourself for one of them. This is the heart of the Buddha's discovery. It is not about becoming a different person. It is about recognizing what you have always been. It is about waking up from the dream that you are a small, separate, struggling self. Modern neuroscience tells us that the brain has a default mode network, active when we are not focused on the outside world. This network is responsible for mind wandering, for self-referential thought, for the stories we tell ourselves about who we are. When this network is highly active, we tend to be less happy. We ruminate on the past, worry about the future, compare ourselves to others. Mindfulness practice quiets this default mode network. It gives the brain a rest from its constant self-narrating. And in that rest, we touch a dimension of experience that is preconceptual, pre-personal. We touch the ocean beneath the waves. Let me tell you another story. This one is about a man who was afraid of the dark. Not as a child, but as an adult. A deep dread would descend upon him every evening as the sun went down. He felt unsafe, exposed. He tried everything to escape this fear. He filled his home with lights. He stayed up late distracting himself. He drank to numb the feeling. Nothing worked. One day, a friend suggested something strange. Instead of running from the darkness, the friend said, "Why don't you try sitting with it? Turn off all your lights and just sit. Don't try to make the fear go away. Just let the darkness be there." The man thought this was ridiculous. But he was desperate, so he tried it. That evening, he turned off all his lights and sat as the last light faded. The fear arose immediately. His heart pounded. His mind raced with terrible images. But he did not turn on the lights. He just sat, breathing, feeling the fear in his body. And then something unexpected happened. After a few minutes, the fear began to change. It did not disappear, but it became less solid. He noticed that fear was not one thing. It was many things: a racing heart, shallow breath, tense shoulders, racing thoughts. Each of these things arose and passed away on its own. The racing heart would slow, then speed up again. The thoughts would come and go. He saw that fear was not a solid wall blocking his path. It was a river of sensations flowing through him. And he was not the fear. He was the one watching the river. This is the practice the Buddha taught. It is not about getting rid of difficult emotions. It is about changing your relationship to them. It is about no longer identifying with them, no longer believing that you are your fear, your anger, your sadness. These are just visitors passing through. They come and they go. You are the one who remains, the one who watches. There is a common misunderstanding about the Buddha's teaching. Many people believe that Buddhism is about eliminating desire altogether, about becoming passionless and indifferent to life. This is a mistake. The Buddha did not teach the elimination of all desire. He taught the elimination of craving, of clinging, of thirst. There is a profound difference. Desire in the sense of appreciation, of engagement, of natural longing, is not the problem. The problem is when desire becomes craving, when it becomes a desperate need, when we believe we cannot be happy without its fulfillment. The problem is when we cling to what we have, terrified of losing it, or grasp for what we do not have, tormented by its absence. The man in our story did not need to stop feeling fear. He needed to stop being afraid of his fear. He needed to stop running. The fear itself was not the enemy. His relationship to the fear was the enemy. This distinction is crucial. The path is not about becoming numb. It is about becoming free. It is not about feeling less. It is about suffering less. The full range of human emotion remains available to you. But you are no longer a slave to any of it. You learn to ride the waves rather than being drowned by them. Now we arrive at something fascinating. Something that has puzzled students of the Buddha for generations. There were certain questions the Buddha simply would not answer. Not because he did not know. Not because he was being evasive. But because the questions themselves were obstacles on the path to freedom. Imagine you are walking through a dense forest. You are tired and lost. You come upon a guide who knows the way out. You ask him, how many trees are in this forest? What is the average height of the pines? How many species of birds nest here? The guide says nothing. He simply points to the path ahead. You become frustrated. Why won't you answer my questions? The guide replies, I do know these things. But if I stop to answer all your questions about the forest, we will both still be standing here when night falls. I am here to lead you out, not to satisfy your curiosity. This is exactly what the Buddha did with a set of questions that were popular among philosophers of his time. Is the world eternal or not? Is the universe finite or infinite? Does the Buddha exist after death? Is the soul the same as the body or different? These were the burning questions of the day. Monks left their teachers over disagreements about them. And when his own disciples asked, the Buddha remained silent. There was a monk named Malunkyaputta who became frustrated with this silence. He approached the Buddha with a list of these questions and issued an ultimatum. If the Blessed One does not answer these questions, I will give up the training and return to the lay life. The Buddha responded gently. Malunkyaputta, when you first came to me and asked to become a monk, did I ever promise you that I would answer such questions? No, Lord, he admitted. Then why do you make such demands of me? The Buddha then offered one of the most memorable analogies in all of spiritual literature. Imagine a man is out walking and is struck by a hunter's arrow. The arrow pierces deep. The poison begins to spread. A doctor arrives to help. But the injured man waves him away. Wait, he says. Before you remove this arrow, I need answers. Who shot this arrow? What is their name? Are they tall or short? What kind of wood is the arrow made from? What kind of feathers are on the end? What was the hunter's intention? The doctor would be horrified. My friend, if you spend your time trying to answer all these questions, you will die from the poison before you get even one answer. The only important thing is to remove the arrow. The Buddha looked at Malunkyaputta and said, this is your situation. The arrow of suffering is embedded in your heart. The poison of craving, of aversion, of ignorance is spreading through your mind. I have not come to satisfy your curiosity about the world. I have come to remove the arrow. I teach one thing and one thing only, suffering and the end of suffering. Everything else is silence. This is not anti-intellectualism. The Buddha was not saying that knowledge is bad. He was saying that some questions, however fascinating, are not helpful on the path to freedom. They are distractions. They are like someone trapped in a burning house who stops to study the chemistry of fire instead of running for the exit. Think about your own life. How much time do you spend asking questions that do not lead to peace? Why did he say that? What will happen next? What if I had chosen differently? What do they think of me? What happens after death? These questions spin in our minds endlessly. They create anxiety, rumination, suffering. And they have one thing in common. They cannot be answered in a way that brings final satisfaction. You can spend your entire life trying to figure out why someone hurt you, and you will never arrive at an answer that heals the wound. The healing comes not from understanding the why, but from removing the arrow. In psychotherapy, there is a concept called rumination. It is the tendency to go over and over the same thoughts, the same questions, without ever arriving at a solution. Rumination is a hallmark of depression and anxiety. It feels like thinking, like problem solving, but it is actually a trap. It keeps us stuck in the pain while giving us the illusion that we are working on it. The Buddha recognized this trap 25 centuries ago. He saw that the mind loves to chew on questions like a dog chews on a bone. It gets a little satisfaction from the chewing, but it never actually consumes anything nourishing. The questions about eternity and infinity were the mind's favorite bones, and it would chew on them forever if allowed. The Buddha's silence was a radical intervention. It was a way of saying, put down the bone. Look at what is actually happening right now. Feel the arrow. Feel the poison. Let me help you remove it. There is another story that illustrates this point. A woman came to the Buddha with her dead child in her arms, begging him to bring the child back to life. This is the story of Kisagotami. The Buddha did not lecture her on the nature of death. He did not explain the philosophy of impermanence. He simply asked her to bring him a mustard seed from a house that had never known death. She went from door to door, and at every house, she heard the same thing. We have lost our father. We have lost our mother. We have lost our child. Slowly, she understood. Her question, why my child? Bring him back, was replaced by a direct confrontation with the truth of suffering. She removed her own arrow by seeing that everyone carries one. This is the path. Not answering every question, but experiencing the truth directly. Not understanding with the intellect, but seeing with the heart. Let us now look more deeply at why these particular questions are not just distractions but are fundamentally unanswerable. The problem is not that the Buddha lacked information. The problem is that the questions themselves are based on a misunderstanding of reality. The questions all follow the same pattern. Is the world eternal or not eternal? Is the universe finite or infinite? Does the Tathagata exist after death or not? Is the soul the same as the body or different? Each question presents a set of rigid options. It is this, it is not this, it is both, or it is neither. In logic, this is called the tetralemma. Four possibilities, and you must choose one. The Buddha's wisdom transcended this entire framework. He saw that these categories, existence and non-existence, being and non-being, are mental constructs. They are concepts we project onto reality. They are useful for navigating the conventional world. We use them to build houses and order coffee. But they are not capable of capturing the ultimate nature of experience. Imagine someone has never seen water. They have only ever encountered ice. They know ice as solid, cold, shaped into cubes. One day, they see the ocean for the first time. They ask you, is this water solid like ice or not solid? Does it have a surface you can walk on or not? Every question is based on their experience of ice. They cannot formulate a question that accurately captures liquid water because their entire framework is wrong. This is our situation with the big questions. We ask about the world in terms of eternal or not eternal because our framework is based on things that either last or don't last. But what if the world is not a thing at all? What if it is a process, a flowing, that cannot be captured by any concept of existence or non-existence? There is a story about a fish who lived his entire life in the ocean. One day, he met a turtle who had just returned from a walk on land. "What is it like up there?" the fish asked. The turtle said, "It is dry. There is no water. You walk on solid ground." The fish was horrified. "No water? Solid ground? You must be lying. Everyone knows that everything is water. Without water, there is nothing." The fish could not comprehend land because his entire framework was water. Every question he could ask about land would be based on water. Is land wet or not wet? Can you swim through it? These questions cannot be answered because land is not a thing that can be described in terms of water. When we ask about the nature of reality, about what happens after death, we are like the fish asking about land. Our questions are based on assumptions that may not apply. We assume a self that continues or ceases. But what if there is no self in the way we imagine? This is why the Buddha remained silent. His silence was not ignorance. It was an invitation to stop asking the wrong questions and start looking directly at experience. Let me tell you another story. A woman spent years trying to solve a puzzle. She had a box of 1,000 pieces and was convinced they formed a beautiful picture. She worked every day, fitting pieces together, celebrating small victories. After years, she had only assembled a small corner. One day, a child visited. The child looked at the box, then at her assembled pieces. "This is wrong," the child said. "What do you mean wrong?" she asked. The child picked up the box and showed her the picture on the cover. It was a landscape. Then the child pointed to her assembled pieces. They formed a distorted image of a face. "You're using the wrong box," the child said. "These pieces don't go with this picture." She looked more closely and realized the truth. Years ago, she had bought the puzzle at a garage sale. The pieces inside were from a completely different puzzle. She had been forcing pieces to fit that were never meant to fit. This is what we do with the big questions. We take the pieces of our experience, sensations, thoughts, feelings, and try to force them into a puzzle box labeled eternal self or soul that continues. But the pieces don't fit because they never belong to that puzzle. The framework is wrong. The Buddha offered a different approach. He said, look at the pieces themselves. Don't worry about the big picture yet. Just see each piece as it arises and passes away. See that it is not you, not yours. When you do this, the pieces stop being frustrating. They become a source of insight rather than confusion. There is a famous dialogue between the monk Anurada and some philosophers. They asked him, what does the Buddha say about the Tathagata after death? Does he exist? Does he not exist? Anuruddha refused to answer. The philosophers mocked him. Anuruddha went to the Buddha and asked how he should respond. The Buddha said, "Anuruddha, I am sitting here before you now. Can you say that the Tathagata exists in form? Is he form itself? Is he separate from form? Is he in sensations? Is he separate from sensations? Is he in perceptions? Is he separate from perceptions?" To each question, Anuruddha answered, "No, Lord." The Buddha said, "If you cannot find the Tathagata even while he is alive and present before you, how could you possibly find him after death?" The questions assume there is a Tathagata to be found. But a Tathagata is not a findable thing. He is a freedom, a peace, an awakening. And freedom cannot be located in the categories of existence and non-existence. This is the deepest reason the questions remain unanswered. They ask about the destiny of something that was never there to begin with. Now we must look at something that often confuses people when they first encounter the Buddha's teaching. If there is no permanent self, no eternal soul, then what is it that continues from life to life? What experiences the results of karma? Who is it that meditates and practices and eventually attains enlightenment? These are good questions. They arise naturally from the teaching of non-self. And they have led to centuries of debate and misunderstanding. Let me offer a story to help clarify. Imagine a river flowing down a mountain. It tumbles over rocks, swirls and eddies, winds through valleys. We give it a name. We call it the Ganges or the Nile or the Mississippi. We say, this is the same river that flowed here 100 years ago. But is it? The water that was here a moment ago is now downstream. New water arrives from the mountains every second. The riverbed shifts, the banks erode, the course changes. In what sense is it the same river? And yet, there is continuity. The river is not the same, but it is not entirely different either. It is a flow, a process, a pattern of constant change that maintains a certain coherence. The water of yesterday caused the conditions for the water of today. The flow of the river is shaped by its own history. This is exactly how we should understand the continuity of a person from moment to moment and from life to life. There is no fixed self that travels through time like a passenger on a train. But there is a stream of causes and conditions, a flow of moments of experience, each one shaped by the ones that came before and shaping the ones that come after. There is a story about a master potter who was famous for his beautiful bowls. He would take a lump of clay, place it on his wheel, and with his hands and his skill, shape it into a perfect form. One day, a student asked him, "Master, where is the bowl before you make it? And where does it go after it breaks?" The potter smiled. "The bowl was never a thing," he said. "It was always just clay in a temporary shape. Before I made it, the clay was there, but not the bowl. After it breaks, the clay is still there, but not the bowl. The bowl itself is a momentary pattern, an arrangement. It has no independent existence." The student was confused. "But I can see it. I can hold it. I can use it to eat my food. How can it not exist?" The potter said, "It exists as a pattern. It does not exist as a thing. You can use it, enjoy it, appreciate it. But if you cling to it, if you believe it is a permanent possession, you will suffer when it breaks. The wise person enjoys the bowl while it is here and lets it go when it is gone, knowing that only the clay continues. This is our situation. What we call a person, a self, an I, is like the bowl. It is a temporary pattern, a configuration of the 5 aggregates: form, sensation, perception, mental formations, consciousness. These aggregates are the clay. They are constantly changing, constantly flowing. The pattern they form right now is what we call me. But that pattern is not a fixed thing. It is a process. A man once came to a wise teacher and asked, "Tell me, is the one who performs an action the same as the one who experiences its result?" The teacher replied, "That is a good question. Let me answer with another question. Is the flame of this candle the same as the flame that was here a moment ago?" The man looked at the candle. The flame flickered and danced. "It looks the same," he said. "But is it?" the teacher asked. "The wax that is burning now is different from the wax that was burning a moment ago. The oxygen being consumed now is different. The heat produced now is different. In fact, every particle of this flame has been replaced since a moment ago. And yet, there is continuity. This flame arose because of the flame that came before. It was caused by it, shaped by it." The man began to understand. So the one who experiences the result is neither the same as the one who performed the action nor completely different. There is continuity without identity. The teacher nodded. "Now you are beginning to see. This is the middle way that the Buddha taught. It avoids 2 extremes. One extreme is eternalism, the belief that there is a permanent, unchanging self that continues forever. The other extreme is annihilationism, the belief that death is total extinction, that nothing continues at all. The middle way says there is continuity, but not identity. There is a flowing on, but no one who flows. This understanding has profound implications for how we live. If we believe in a permanent self, we become obsessed with protecting it, enhancing it, securing its future. We build walls around it. We fight to defend it. We suffer when it is threatened. If we believe in annihilation, we may become irresponsible, thinking, "Nothing matters anyway. I'll be gone soon. Why bother with kindness or practice?" But when we see the truth of dependent origination, when we understand that we are a flowing process shaped by causes and conditions, we find a different motivation. We care for this process not because it is a permanent self, but because it matters. The actions of today shape the experience of tomorrow. The kindness we offer now becomes part of the stream that continues. We are not building a monument to a self. We are tending a garden that will bloom long after these particular flowers have faded. The questions about who does the deed and who receives the result, about what continues and what does not, these questions dissolve when we stop looking for a thing and start seeing the process. The river flows on. The clay continues. The pattern changes. And in that change, there is freedom. We have been exploring the nature of self and the questions the Buddha left unanswered. Now let us look at something that might seem like a contradiction. The Buddha taught that there is no permanent self, yet he also taught about karma and rebirth. How can there be rebirth without a self to be reborn? This question has puzzled many people, and it deserves careful attention. Let me offer a story that might help. Imagine a flame passing from one candle to another. You light one candle, and then you use that flame to light a second candle. The first flame flickers and eventually goes out. The second flame burns on. Is the flame on the second candle the same as the flame on the first? In one sense, yes. It is the same continuity of burning. In another sense, no. The fuel is different, the moment is different, the wax is different. It is neither the same nor different. It is a continuation. This is how we might understand rebirth. Not a permanent soul traveling from one body to another, like a person moving from one house to another. But a continuity of causes and conditions, a stream of influence, a flame passing on. The Buddha used a different analogy. He spoke of a river. The river this moment is not the same as the river a moment ago. The water has flowed on, new water has arrived. But there is continuity. The river of now is shaped by the river of then. It flows in the same channel, follows the same course, carries the same name. In the same way, the person of this moment is shaped by the person of past moments. And the person of the next moment will be shaped by the person of now. This is karma. This is continuity without identity. There is a story about a farmer who planted mango seeds. He tended them carefully, watering them, protecting them from pests, ensuring they had good soil. Years passed, and the seeds grew into strong trees that bore sweet fruit. One day, a visitor came and asked, "Whose mangoes are these? Are they yours?" The farmer thought for a moment. "The seeds came from my father's trees," he said. "I planted them. I cared for them. But the trees themselves grew from the earth, from the rain, from the sun. The fruit is a result of many causes. Can any fruit truly be called mine?" The visitor persisted. "But you did the work. You planted the seeds. Shouldn't you enjoy the fruit?" The farmer smiled. "I will enjoy the fruit, yes. But I will not cling to it as mine. I will taste it, appreciate it, and let it go. And I will save some seeds to plant for the future, knowing that I may not be the one who eats from those trees. But someone will. And that is enough." This farmer understood something profound. He understood that his actions mattered even though he would not personally experience all their results. He planted for the future, not because he expected to be there, but because the planting itself was meaningful. A woman once asked a Buddhist monk, "If there is no self, then who meditates? Who becomes enlightened? Who is freed from suffering?" The monk replied with a question. "When you sleep at night and dream, who is the dreamer?" "I am," she said. "And when you wake in the morning, does that dreamer still exist?" "No, the dreamer is gone. That was just a dream." "But you are still here," the monk said. "The dreamer was a construction of your sleeping mind. It seemed real, but it was not ultimately real. Yet it had effects. It caused you to feel fear or joy. It caused your heart to race. In the same way, the self of this life is like a dreamer. It seems real. It has effects. It experiences and acts. But when the great waking comes, when enlightenment dawns, you see that this self was never ultimately real. And yet, the continuity continues. The waking person is not the dreamer, but there is connection, there is memory, there is causation. The woman was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "So I am to act as if I am real, while knowing that I am not?" The monk nodded. Act with care, with kindness, with responsibility. Your actions matter. They shape the future, your future and others. But do not cling to the actor. Do not believe the actor is solid and permanent. Act, and then let go. This is the path. This teaching frees us from two traps. One trap is selfishness, the belief that only I matter, that I must protect myself at all costs. The other trap is nihilism, the belief that nothing matters because I will soon be gone. When we see the truth of continuity without identity, we find a middle way. We care deeply about our actions because they shape the stream of experience that will continue. But we do not cling anxiously to the results because there is no solid self to possess them. We plant seeds with care, knowing that others will enjoy the fruit. We live with integrity, knowing that our choices echo far beyond this moment. The questions about who is reborn and what continues are like questions about the river. The river continues, but no drop of water remains. The flame continues, but no particle of wax persists. The stream of consciousness continues, but no permanent self travels through. It is a mystery, yes. But it is a mystery we can live with, a mystery we can even find freedom in Indiana. Let us now turn to something that may be the most practical aspect of all this teaching. If the self is not a solid thing, if the big questions are unanswerable, then how do we actually live? What does practice look like in daily life? The Buddha was not interested in philosophy for its own sake. He was interested in freedom. And freedom is not something you believe. It is something you do. It is something you cultivate, moment by moment, breath by breath. There is a story about a man who came to a teacher and said, "I have studied all the scriptures. I have read every book on enlightenment. I can recite the teachings from memory. Tell me, am I enlightened now?" The teacher looked at him for a long moment. Then he said, "Have you eaten breakfast?" The man was confused. "Yes, I ate breakfast." "Then go wash your bowl." This story is famous in Zen tradition. It points to something essential. Enlightenment is not found in books or theories or beliefs. It is found in the simplest activities of daily life. Eating, washing, walking, breathing. The question is not whether you know the teachings. The question is whether you are present for your own life. The man in the story had filled his mind with concepts about enlightenment. He had mistaken the menu for the meal. The teacher's instruction, "Go wash your bowl," was an invitation to come back to the real, to the immediate, to the ordinary. Washing a bowl, if done with full attention, is enlightenment. Not a special enlightenment. Just the enlightenment of being fully alive in this moment. A woman once asked a meditation teacher, "How long should I practice each day? An hour? 2 hours?" The teacher said, "How long do you breathe each day?" The woman laughed. "All day, of course. I breathe all day." The teacher nodded. "Then practice all day. Not just sitting. Practice while walking, while eating, while working, while talking. Practice being present. Practice noticing. Practice letting go. This is the heart of the path. It is not about adding something to your life. It is about waking up to what is already here. The breath is always here. The body is always here. Sensations, feelings, thoughts are always arising and passing. The question is whether you are present for them or lost in distraction. The Buddha taught that the path to freedom has 8 branches, often called the Noble Eightfold Path. But we can simplify. The path is about 3 things: ethical conduct, mental discipline, and wisdom. Ethical conduct means living in a way that does not harm yourself or others. Mental discipline means training the mind to be focused and aware. Wisdom means seeing things as they really are, especially seeing the truth of impermanence, suffering, and non-self. These 3 support each other. Ethical conduct gives the mind peace, making meditation possible. Meditation develops the concentration needed for wisdom. Wisdom deepens ethical conduct by showing why it matters. They are not separate stages but aspects of a single path. There is a story about a musician who came to the Buddha. He was a famous lute player, but he had become a monk and was struggling with his practice. He tried too hard and became tense. He relaxed too much and became lazy. He could not find the balance. The Buddha, who knew about his former life as a musician, asked him, when your lute was in tune, what happened if the strings were too tight? The monk said, if the strings were too tight, they would break. The music would be harsh. And what happened if the strings were too loose? Then there would be no music at all. The sound would be dull and weak. The Buddha said, just so with practice. Not too tight, not too loose. Find the balance. This is the middle way. This teaching is for all of us. Many people approach practice like they approach everything else in life, with striving, with ambition, with a desire to achieve. They want to get enlightened like they want to get a promotion. This very striving becomes an obstacle. Others give up, thinking they are not good enough, that the path is too hard. They become discouraged. The middle way is not about achieving something. It is about being present. It is about gentle, consistent effort, like water wearing away stone. Not forcing, not giving up. Just showing up, day after day, moment after moment. A young monk once asked his teacher, how will I know when I am making progress? The teacher said, before practice, mountains were just mountains and rivers were just rivers. During practice, mountains were no longer mountains and rivers were no longer rivers. After practice, mountains were again mountains and rivers were again rivers. The young monk was confused. I don't understand. What is the difference between before and after if everything looks the same? The teacher smiled. Before, you saw mountains and rivers through a veil of concepts, of stories, of judgments. During practice, you deconstructed those concepts and saw through them. After practice, you return to ordinary life, but the veil is gone. You see mountains as mountains, but you see them directly, without the overlay of grasping and aversion. Everything is the same, and everything is different. You are home, but you have never left. This is the promise of the path. Not to become someone special. Not to attain something extraordinary. But to come home to your own life, fully awake, fully present, fully free. The mountains are still mountains. The rivers are still rivers. But you see them with new eyes. You live with new freedom. In the next part, we will explore what this freedom actually feels like and how we can taste it for ourselves, even in small ways, starting right now. Now we arrive at the heart of the matter. What does freedom actually feel like? Not as a concept, not as a philosophy, but as a living experience. The Buddha spoke of nirvana, but he was careful not to describe it too much. He knew that words would only create more concepts, more things to grasp. Instead, he pointed. He said, there is an unborn, unbecome, unmade, unconditioned. If there were not, there would be no escape from the born, become, made, conditioned. This is not a description. It is an invitation. It is saying that freedom is possible because the conditioned mind is not all there is. Beneath the waves, there is the ocean. Beneath the thoughts, there is awareness. Beneath the drama of self, there is peace. Let me tell you a story about a woman who spent years in darkness. Not physical darkness, but the darkness of depression, of anxiety, of a mind that would not stop spinning. She tried therapy, medication, exercise, diet. Nothing reached the root. Then one day, sitting in her apartment, watching the rain stream down the window, she had a moment of complete stopping. For just a few seconds, the thinking mind went quiet. The stories stopped. The worries dissolved. And in that silence, she felt something she had never felt before. A peace so deep, so natural, so obviously her own true nature that she laughed out loud. The thoughts returned, of course. They always return. But something had changed. She had tasted it. She knew now that peace was possible, that it was not somewhere else, not something to achieve, but always present, hidden beneath the noise. This is the taste of freedom. It is not a special state reserved for monks in caves. It is your own mind, temporarily quiet, showing you what has always been true. There is a story about a man who searched everywhere for a treasure. He dug in his garden, explored distant caves, dove in the ocean. He spent his entire fortune and his entire life on the search. Finally, old and tired, he returned home. As he walked into his house, he tripped on a loose stone in the floor. The stone came up, and beneath it, he found a chest of gold. It had been there all along, right under his feet. This is our situation with peace. We search everywhere for it. In relationships, in achievements, in possessions, in experiences. We travel, we study, we strive. And all along, peace is right here, in the simple awareness that is reading these words, hearing these sounds, feeling this breath. It has always been here. We just never looked in the right place. The Buddha's enlightenment was not about discovering something new. It was about seeing something that had always been true. He saw that suffering comes from craving, that craving comes from ignorance, and that when ignorance ends, suffering ends. He saw that the self we cling to is a construction, a habit, a dream. And he saw that waking from the dream is possible. A woman once asked her teacher, "What is enlightenment like?" The teacher said, "What is it like not to have a headache?" The woman laughed. "I don't know. I've never thought about it." "Exactly," the teacher said. "When the headache is gone, you don't walk around celebrating the absence of pain. You just live. You just are. Enlightenment is like that. It is not a special feeling. It is the absence of the suffering you didn't even know you were carrying. This is profound. We are so used to our suffering, so accustomed to the background hum of anxiety, dissatisfaction, and fear, that we don't even notice it. It is like a refrigerator motor that runs constantly. You only notice it when it stops. The silence is startling. Enlightenment is that silence. Not a special state, but the end of a special state called suffering. Not becoming something, but unbecoming the illusion of a separate self. Not gaining anything, but losing everything that was never really yours. There is a famous exchange in the scriptures. A wanderer named Vakagata asked the Buddha, "Venerable Sir, does the Tathagata exist after death?" The Buddha was silent. "Then does he not exist after death?" Again, silence. "Both exist and not exist." Silence. "Neither exist nor not exist." The Buddha remained silent. After Vakagata left, Ananda asked the Buddha why he had not answered. The Buddha said, "To answer yes to any of those questions would be to grasp at views, to create attachment, to lead away from the path. The Tathagata is free from all theories, all concepts, all designations. He is deep, immeasurable, hard to fathom, like the ocean. This is the final teaching. The awakened one is not a thing to be located in the categories of existence and non-existence. Freedom is not a place to be reached or a state to be achieved. It is the nature of mind when it stops grasping, stops clinging, stops constructing. You can taste this freedom right now. Not by believing anything, but by letting go of everything. Just for a moment, let go of the need to figure things out. Let go of the questions. Let go of the seeker. Rest in simple awareness. Feel the breath. Notice the silence behind the sounds. That silence, that awareness, that presence, is closer to you than your own name. It is what you have always been. We have traveled far together. We have explored the nature of suffering and its end. We have sat with the questions the Buddha left unanswered and discovered that his silence was not evasion but compassion. We have looked into the mirror of non-self and seen that what we call I is a flowing process, not a fixed thing. Now we come to the end of our time together. But the end of a talk is just the beginning of practice. The real work is not in listening but in living. The real path is not in understanding but in being. There is a story about a student who spent years with his teacher. He learned all the teachings, memorized all the scriptures, mastered all the techniques. Finally, he felt ready. He went to his teacher and said, "I am leaving now. I will go and teach others." The teacher said, "That is good. But before you go, answer one question. What will you teach?" The student recited all he had learned. The nature of suffering. The origin of suffering. The cessation of suffering. The path. He spoke of impermanence, of non-self, of dependent origination. He spoke for a long time. When he finished, the teacher said, "All of that is true. But tell me, have you eaten today?" The student was surprised. "Yes, I ate." "Then go and teach by eating. Teach by walking. Teach by sitting quietly. Teach by being kind." The words are just maps. The territory is your life. This is the invitation for you. Not to believe what I have said, but to test it in your own experience. Not to add more concepts to your mind, but to let go of concepts and see directly. A woman once asked the Buddha, "I have heard that your teaching is wonderful. But I am busy. I have a family, a job, responsibilities. Can I still practice?" The Buddha picked up a lamp that was burning nearby. He turned it down until the flame was small. Then he turned it up until it blazed. He said, "The flame is still flame, whether small or large. Practice is still practice, whether in the monastery or the marketplace. The conditions change, but the path is the same. Be present. Be kind. Be aware. This is enough. You do not need to retreat from the world to practice. You need only to bring awareness to whatever you are doing. Washing dishes, driving to work, talking with a friend, feeling your breath. Each moment is an opportunity. Each moment is the path. The questions we started with, the 14 unanswered questions, they remain unanswered. And that is perfect. They are not meant to be answered with words. They are meant to be dissolved by wisdom. When you see directly that the self is not a thing, the question about its future disappears. When you taste the unconditioned, the questions about the conditioned world lose their urgency. The Buddha's silence was his final teaching. It was an invitation to stop asking and start seeing. To stop searching and start being. To stop becoming and start resting. So here we are at the end. But the end is just another beginning. Every breath is a new chance to wake up. Every moment is a fresh opportunity to let go. The path is always here, under your feet. The peace is always here, in your heart. The freedom is always here, in this very moment. Thank you for walking this path with me. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be free.